gentle Redeemer, you are amazing, God. And you are Jesus, awesome in power, you are amazing, God. Sing it out, you are.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. God bless you. And as always, welcome to daily prayer for our children, wherever it is that you are joining us from. I always like to welcome you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Most especially if you're meeting us for the very first time, our warmest welcome always go to you. Hope you've had a wonderful weekend. Hope the week has started fantastically for each and every one of you. And above all, if your children are on holiday like mine, I hope you still got some hair left on you. I hope there's still some food in your fridge, and I hope there's still water for you to drink and some juice left in your house. And I hope your house is still very clean and very tidy, because at this time when they are home, all you hear is, I'm hungry, I'm bored. Are we going out? Are we there soon? So if you're going through those phases, I pray for strength for you in the mighty name of Jesus. And if your children are grown up and you don't have any of those, I still pray in the name of Jesus that you will not lack such things in your home, because that's a sign of an active home, a home that is alive. And in as much as, sometimes we moan, but when they are now not actually there, we know the difference. The silence, like they say, can be very deafening when they're not there. You want to call somebody and you're not there. You want to gist with them, but they're not there. And I pray that will not be our Lord. You see, Archbishop is laughing. It's true. I'm bored. What are we doing? Are we going out? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? But like I said, as far as the drinks and the food goes, I pray the Lord will continue to replenish your pocket in the mighty name of Jesus, and your barns will never be barren in the name of Jesus. Okay, we had a few technical issues at the beginning, so obviously it ate into our time. Sister Folakemi and I are hoping to bring it to a conclusion today, so I'm not going to delay any further. I'm going to bring her on board. Hopefully she's no, that's not the right prayer. I was going to say she's not a stranger to you, but no, I actually need her to be a stranger to some of you, because that means you are discovering her. But if she's no longer a stranger, then that means no new faces are coming. So I need new faces to come. So if she's a stranger to you, that's good. So you can connect with her, you can find out who she is and what she does. I think if I can't borrow this English from the American, I can say she's our resident coach, if I can say that. So when she comes, she's probably laughing. I'll ask her again, are you our resident coach? Because they say we have resident pastors and we have resident doctors and all those. So we've got a resident coach. So let's find out. So to everybody that is meeting her for the very first time, she's my beloved sister Folakemi Adedeji Ikuyinminu. And yesterday, I don't know who got the shocker. I think whether both of us got a shocker, but we have a common friend, and we still haven't spoken about that. So it's interesting because I was speaking to her on a journey, and then I'm speaking to the other person as well. And then a few hours later, I looked at my phone and I saw both of them together. So I sent the picture to her. I said, "You know each other?" So it's amazing. Such a small world, but like I said, she's probably just going to smile when I bring her on board. So let me bring my sister on board. God bless you, everybody. At Bishop, I see you there. There she is, that sister Folakemi for you, everybody. At Bishop, I hope you've had a wonderful weekend and you're keeping well, and the whole family. So we'll talk about our family issues later.
It's a small world.
It's a very small world. You know, it's interesting. One day she actually made a comment while we were live, but I didn't realize it was her.
She told me yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was her. In fact, I didn't put it together. It was my boss that put it together. Like, it must have been her that made the comment. But all I said on that day was, wow, this person knows me very well. So, but I couldn't put 2 + 2 together. But we give God all the praise. So we saw you last week, this time last week. So how are you, Ma?
I'm very well, thank you. Good evening, Ma. Good evening, our pastor in the background, our technical director. Good evening, house. It's good to be here again. Thank God for life.
Yes, so thank God for life. Thank God that we are alive, and that doesn't mean that we are despising those that are not here, but in all things, the Bible says we should give thanks. So we are appreciating God for the ability to be able to be together again, and to be able to even do His will, because that's another thing, you know, to be alive and be doing the will of the Father. I think that's a big plus for me, to be honest with you. So we're hoping to finish today. Am I right? We're picking up from where we left off the last time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think we were in slide 18. Is that where you would like me? Is there anything you'd like to say before? Please, I'm not trying to rush you.
Well, I can see all our people there. Fubitawu, Auntie JJ, Prophets. Welcome.
Everybody has titles. But you know, I tried to give you one, our resident coach. Did you accept or did you reject?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And EG is there as well. Yes, I've been given a title. Stafuka has added to my titles, and Pastor is already.
Yes, so you were promoted earlier on today as well. You see, blessing upon blessing. Shout hallelujah!
Hallelujah! We thank God for His mercies. Right, yes, I'm glad to be here. Okay, and let's do some more learning as we continue this journey of parenting our children and parenting ourselves, because a lot of the times we are reparenting ourselves as well.
That's true.
We are relearning and readjusting, so that we can do a good job.
Yes, that's right. And I pray that the Lord will continue to open our eyes of understanding, and even actually a teachable spirit. Amen. To be honest, Amen. I think that is I think that's very important, to have a teachable spirit, because it's one thing to be taught or shown something, is actually another thing to actually want to learn that thing and take it on board and run with it. True. So I remember as a child, I don't know whether you ever heard this prayer as a child. I heard it a lot in the Yoruba dialect. Etigbo ayagbashi. Exactly. So
the hearing, yeah.
So my interpretation of that in English is hearing ears and a receptive heart.
Receptive heart.
Exactly. A heart that is willing to receive
A
and
teachable
utilize.
spirit.
Exactly, a teachable spirit. I'm willing to utilize whatever it is that we're being given, because I don't know, this is just my personal experience over the years. I've discovered that many people take a lot of stuff, resources, um, and they don't actually use it, to be honest, Sister Folakemi. I don't know about you.
Mm,
People take resources, but they don't actually utilize it.
true.
So I think it's very important that we do pray about being able to utilize what it is that we are receiving. So if I'm not mistaken, I think this is where we were.
This
The
is where we were. We
Okay,
looked
so
at
I'm right.
problem solving. So
Okay,
we finished with problem solving, and we're moving on to the final two. I think our next one is
so
working
should I
memory.
move on to the next
Let's
one?
move on. Yes,
Okay, excellent.
and we
Thank you
can
for that.
always.
Because I wasn't quite sure whether
You're
whether
doing good.
I was an attentive student. That's the word I was looking for.
You're doing
I
good.
wanted to make sure I was an attentive student. So since now you have qualified me, I think that's great news. So let's move on to the next one. So the next one is this working memory.
Yes, it's working memory.
Okay.
Right. So I would do a definition of working memories. It's the ability to hold information for a short term while we're performing a complex task, a more complex task. So ability to, on the short term, I've given an instruction to a child, go to the kitchen, get a cup and put some water in it. The ability to remember that I need to get a cup before I put the water in it. So holding information while performing complex tasks. And so for working memory to be operational, you need to be able to draw on past experience, on what you have learned in the past, okay, and apply it into the situation. So for instance, the child who's going to go to the kitchen to get you a glass of water remembers that the glasses are kept in a certain place in the kitchen, or if they're not tall enough, or if they need to reach for it, they remember that this is what I need to do to be able to get it. So drawing on past experience to be able to do complex tasks. Now for working memory, the greatest capacity is at early adulthood. So from the young toddlers to like 18, they haven't got fantastic memories. And if you have a teenager, you will agree with me that they practically forget everything except for the things they like doing. So the greatest capacity for working memory is in early adulthood, 19 upwards. So they can, at that age, we can collect information, we can store it, we can synthesize, which means we can process it, and we can use information from multiple sources to accomplish certain goals. Now, under 19, that skill is not developed yet. So that's why, like I said earlier, jokingly, teenagers just seem to forget everything because they haven't got that capacity at the moment. So that's what we're aiming for, to be able to, use the information we have to solve different problems. Now, you'd agree with me that that's an adult skill. You are the one that will remember that, oh, I bought milk from this shop and I didn't like it, so I'm not going to buy it again. Or that shop has a cheaper option. Before we get to that stage, we haven't really got that capacity. So 13 to 18 will collect the information. They will try and apply it to a new setting. So for instance, they know that this shop sells Tesco sells milk, as the sells milk. Oh, if I go to this place, I can get what I want. So they are still in the process of working on them on the memory and consolidating the things they've learned. So between 13 and 18, they will forget things because, as we said, their brains are still actually developing at a really fast rate, and so many things are happening in the brain at that point in time. So for a young child, they can hold the information in mind, like I said, follow a 1 to 2 step instruction without forgetting. Of course, if you reel off a long list of things to do for the 5 to 12 year olds, that they would have forgotten. Even as an adult, how many things can I say to you? I mean, there's an assessment. If I remember years ago, there was an assessment we used to do. We will reel out, and it was a working memory assessment. We'll reel out a set of numbers and ask you to repeat back as many as you can. Even adults cannot do so many. There's only so much we can remember. Now, the what we want to do with the working memory is able to transfer the skills so that we can commit that information into long-term memory. Okay, so for younger children, helping them to solve puzzles, to do logical things, to so that they can see that things follow in a sequence. Puzzles, logic games, group activities, games where they have to hold some information in their head to be able to move on to the next one. Those sort of things helps to expand the working memory capacity. Puzzles with adult support. So with our young people, with the teenagers, we need to help them to find ways of retaining information, setting reminders, using a schedule. All of the things that we do naturally as adults, we want them to be able to, practice those things and use them effectively. So I will apologize on behalf of all the young people that make us annoyed. They really can't remember as much as we expect them to, but we can help them to remember more. Are you there, sis? So in the age bracket of 5 to 12, we want them to be able to remember their homework. That's why they have diaries, or they have school records, so they can write those things down, and that will jog their memory. And if you're giving them instructions, if you're leaving the house, if there are things you want them to do, write it down. Have a list. I remember somebody coming to my house years ago. My children were still much younger, and I had a list of, I think it was a TV rule or something. And he was laughing, and I said, "Look, once I've written it down, I've stuck it on the door." I remember what it was. It was actually a schedule, because we had that one TV in the living room. My children were fighting over it. So I basically did, one person has the remote at o'clock, and one person has the remote at o'clock. And the next week we'll swap it round. That way I didn't have to get involved in or try to remember who has what, because I've stuck it there. So finding those little things that will help them jog their memory, so that they won't say, "Oh, I forgot. Oh, I can't remember." That's why I have a working a washing schedule in my house when the children were growing up, because I myself will not remember who washed last. And of course, children now, they'll say, "It was me, it wasn't me, it was you, it wasn't you." So just basically put something there to serve as a reminder. Monday, this is the person that does it. Tuesday, this is the person that does it. Finish. There's nothing to remember. So at least now you can use your brain to remember the things that are important. For our younger children, that's why we do lots of singing, and we repeat the songs. By the time you repeat, the nursery rhymes, they will commit it into memory, and that helps them. And of course, those of us who are Christians, who go to church, memory verses, remembering things in sequence. Practice makes perfect. That's as much as Repeat. Thank you. Thank you, Melective. We must repeat. We must repeat things. Even we as adults, you don't learn something once and then you just know it. There's some things that you have to go. I personally, I take my time to learn things. Some people, like my husband, has got a very magnetic memory. He needs to see it once, it's fine. Me, I must learn it. So if a child is not learning quickly, I empathize, I understand. Sometimes my husband is like, and I'm like, you know what? Everybody's not as smart as you are. Give us room. So those who need help, we need to recognize the fact that they need help and help them. But when we now, Sister and I were, Savanka and I were talking earlier, when we now have children who can barely remember anything, then we know that there's a gap there, and that we need to find help for those children. That's when if it's in school, that the teachers will get the special needs department. It doesn't mean that there's it doesn't mean that the child is defective. It means that they need help. They get the specialist teachers to assess them, and then they will provide the support that will help them jog their memories. So memory joggers is basically what you need. Writing lists, putting reminders, tick lists. I love tick lists. Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done that? We do that as adults. So children, they can benefit from that once they know, and then it becomes routine, and then they can, expand on that.
And to be honest with you, I think now that you're talking, I think my ignorance is coming to me, and I think an apology is also due to somebody that probably cannot receive my apology, because I don't even know where the person is now. This was many years ago when there was a young, he'll be a young man now, because he's only April, May, June. Yeah, I think he's only like 3 months younger than my young lady. So they grew up together, literally, the two families. And I remember one year we went to their house, and obviously children being children, they went to each other's room. Obviously my young lady went upstairs to play with him. And I don't know whether I went and I saw it or my young lady came. Obviously girls develop faster than boys. Well, we're told. Okay, so we just taking what we're told. And some of us that are married, we kind of agree. Okay, so so I remember something about this young man or boy at the time had a long list of things he had to remember and do. Now, I'm not going to mention the name, but I think maybe that's the only place. I don't know. Maybe I would change something a little different, but I'm going to explain what he said, or some of what he said. He said things like, Funke must wake up early. Funke has to remember that Funke is... do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, I'm talking over 20 years ago now. So that's why I'm probably apologizing for if it was my ignorance at the time. But I found it... I thought, one, they put it in a place that was of embarrassment, because I think when my daughter saw it, I think he hid it. Children being children, she probably thought, oh, what is this? Went to it and started reading it. And then I think he now got embarrassed or something, because even some of the things that were written in there, yeah, please do take note. It wasn't in public domain. They were upstairs. So obviously, but he wasn't comfortable with it, obviously. I mean, I think, I don't know. I'm trying to bring this to the table because I don't know. So even when you're talking about sticky notes, sticky tape, do you get what I'm saying? How are we presenting, because like you said, if A has the remote control this week, then next week B is having remote control, those kind of thing. And like you said, somebody came into your house and saw that. How would that have made my children to feel? What impression? Do you get what I'm saying? Because if you and I interact, which I think we do, I can probably say, sis, what's all this about? We can joke. Do you understand? But somebody can come in and say, so you guys can't even, how our parents used to talk to us. So you two, you can't even decide among yourself who's having control. So your mother has to write it down. Do you get what I'm saying?
I know that feeling. For me, it was, he was, the person actually is a teacher as well. And under that list was the TV rules. As in, if you continue to bicker and fight, and I hear, then I take the remote. If you do this, then because that was the stage where they were. And I needed to establish that, we need to do this right, or we're not going to watch the TV. And that was the end for me. I think with those things, especially as the children grow, let them take ownership, let them be part of it. It's not a list that we're right for them per se. If they're not taking ownership, then it's something we're asking them to do, and that doesn't help what we want. That doesn't help what we want to develop. We won't achieve what we want to achieve. It's a sitting down together thing, like, you seem to be forgetting your homework, or you seem to be forgetting to do the things you need to do. Let's write a list of the things you need to do in the morning. Write a list of the things you need to take to school, or let's write a list of the chores you need to do on a Saturday morning before you can do whatever it is you need to do. So together, he himself will be able to say to his friends, sometimes I forget to do. He has taken ownership. It's not that my mommy said or my daddy said. It's them understanding that, look, there are things that are being left undone because you have forgotten to do them. And how can we work together to be sure that everything is working well? If you're supposed to clean the living room and you haven't cleaned it, and a visitor knocks on the door, we're all going to look very very silly, and like me and my cousins used to joke, like our house will look like that of Mr. Foolish, because we haven't bothered to clean it. So those sort of things, helping them understand that, look, I'm not blaming you, because I think where the problem comes from is that we blame the child. I know children are playful and they're forgetful. So of course, if a child is playful, we still need to pull them back, rein them back in, and say, look, you can't leave the things you need to do. But there's some children that genuinely forget things. And a lot of children actually still forget things because they're playful. So you can see that, it's practically the same thing. Those who have a challenge remembering and those who are playful, they both need that support too. You need to remember what your responsibilities are. Now, for those of them that have a challenge remembering, you will find that we're talking about dyslexia
earlier on, yeah.
They will have problems with comprehension. They will read beautifully, but they won't be able to answer any questions because they haven't stored the information long enough to be able to comprehend it. That's why we call it comprehension. So, and they would struggle with reasoning. We've been able to say, if this is so, then that is so, because they haven't been able to synthesize the information and apply it. So it's a genuine challenge for children. We get impatient, like, but you read it, but how come you don't understand it? They haven't made sense of it. And they need the help to, when it comes to not comprehending, they need help. Now, the other thing I would say about comprehension is children with additional language, and I'll explain it. Most of us think that our first language is English. as long as there's another language being spoken in the house, you have your child is classified as I know as English as an additional language. And the thing is, we think in our first language. So when you're going to, you don't think about it. It was
Mm,
actually my French friend that brought it to my attention that without consciously thinking about it, you think in your first language and then you translate into English. If you're going to speak English, if you're going to speak another language, that's what you do. You think it. That's why a lot of us, when we move abroad, especially, we have to like kind of think. I remember it happened a lot to me when I moved into this country. Not because I couldn't speak English, but because there's a way that English is spoken in England that is different from where I was coming from Nigeria. Because we tend to speak a direct translation of language in English. If I'm speaking to a Nigerian, they would understand it. If I'm speaking to a British person, they would not understand it. I'm using the right words, but I'm still not communicating because there's a cultural influence in what I'm saying. So basically, comprehension is what got me here because I like literacy, so don't get me started. Comprehension. So our children, because there's an additional language being spoken in the house, need the support to understand when they read. And the other thing that affects children with an additional language is the cultural factor. There are lots of cultural nuances in the English language that is not open, that is not common, that is not commonplace in Nigeria, for instance. I mean, things are getting better in Nigeria where we're beginning to imbibe a lot of these cultures. When you talk about picnics, I remember when we had newly arrived children, I mean, from different parts of the world, from Asia and all of that, in school, you would realize that certain things we say that they're very much part of the English culture. And if you don't understand the culture, you wouldn't know what we're talking about. So it is important that when children read, especially those of us that have younger children, make sure they understand the words they are reading. Because sometimes, because they've learned the phonics, they can read it and they read beautifully. It's not about reading beautifully. Do they understand it? Even if it's just one page you're going to read, check that they understand the words. Point at random words. What does that word mean? Because if you've read a whole line and you don't know the meaning of two words in that line, you haven't done any reading. You can't understand. There's no way you can understand if you've lost the meaning of certain words in a passage. So we need it's important. I remember when we first moved here, my son was 2, and was it 2? No, he was in year 2, and straight away his teachers picked up that comprehension. That was where I started paying attention to the comprehension with our boys, especially with our boys, because they don't have, a lot of them don't have that much good attention. So comprehension for them, if you have young children, please start building it up. Start talking to them. What does that word mean? What do you understand by that? Explain it to me. So just pulling out the how they are how they are approaching things, how they are thinking about what is happening. It doesn't have to be a long passage to work on comprehension. It could just be a short passage, and you can just talk about it, think about inferencing and all of that. Now you've got me started. I got myself started on reading because we're talking now about working memory. Okay, let's move on. So working memory is really important for comprehension. And please let's work on comprehension with our children, especially inferencing. Inferencing where the writer hasn't said things really clearly, where you have to make deduction. Then you have to make inference from what they're saying. If the writer says the man was shivering, what does that imply? What makes a person shiver? That's where you would realize that a lot of children don't understand context, or they don't understand, they can't infer from what's going on. So that's a question. That's a point for discussion. If somebody's shivering, how are they feeling? What makes people shiver? Because that passage that says someone is shivering is already it's already assumed that you understand the context of when somebody shivers, what's going on. And that's what inferencing is. That comes back to working memory as being able to incorporate and draw from past experiences. So if children don't understand what it means when someone shivers, then they won't be able to understand that context. Or if they don't remember. Okay. All right, let's move on. So let's support children with comprehension from the word, from the very beginning, when they're reading, one sentence per page. Look at the pictures, talk about the pictures, talk about why, who is there, why, what are they doing, what do you think? That's a good one. That's another good one to ask. What do you think? Now, when you ask a child, what do you think? They have to work through the things they have learned in the past and apply it to that situation. And asking questions like, have you ever seen anything like that? Has it ever happened to you? Do you have the same color of shoes? Do you have the same color? Just bringing it back to the child so they can use their past experiences and relate it to what they are doing. That's working memory. So let's not badger them with instructions. Let's make it step by step, and let's help them to develop their memory. So I've gone from working memory to comprehension, and I'm back on working memory. It's all part of the same thing. Thank you, Ma. Yes. Let's move on, sis. I think it's our final slide, and it's a big one. Okay. Emotional control, self-control. It's a big one, and many adults need this one. Modulation in most environments. How to control outbursts, how to manage frustrations in a healthy way. Now, that is a skill that I expect to see in 19 plus. Anybody under 19 is still developing it, and we want to see glimpses of the fact that they are maturing. Okay, now you'll agree with me. I've said it many times on this platform that this bottom line, where we control outbursts and manage frustrations in a healthy way, it's not all adults that have it. In fact, parents that lash out at their children and parents that speak lots of negative, heavy words at their children, they're not developed, they're not showing this skill. Parents that accuse their children of you're making me angry, they haven't mastered this skill. Nobody makes us angry. And like in this place where we live, they say, oh, they're winding me up. And I used to say to the children, and of course they wouldn't understand my joke, like, turn around, can I see your back? But you haven't got a winder on your back. Like, remember when we were growing, instead of battery operated toys, we had wound up toys that you had to wind up and then they would move. So if we say somebody's winding us up, if we say somebody is annoying us, it means there's something on the inside of us that is waiting to be triggered. being able to modulate our emotions, control outbursts. Some adults have ridiculous outbursts. I mean, if your teenager is having an outburst and you are shouting over them, then we need to think again, because that child has lost control. You yourself that you're shouting, you have lost control. That is the truth of the matter. So when we are frustrated with the children, being able to manage our frustrations in a healthy way. We're talking about children. Let me go back to the children. But yeah, let's think about that. For younger children, 13 to 18, understanding the emotions of others. Now, emotional control. If we want to see it in our children, we need to show it. If I, as an adult, do not understand the emotions of my child, how do I expect them to understand my own emotions? I think we are being unfair sometimes when we expect that, you know, they would acknowledge the fact that we are annoyed or we are irritated, but we don't acknowledge it in them. If we want them to be able to understand the emotions of others, understand our own emotions, we need to understand their own emotions. How many of us would say, I can see that you're frustrated, to our child? We wouldn't say that. We would say, let me not have a say a blanket statement. But majority of us will say, what's that? What's that look on your face for? Of course, anybody who's frowning is obviously not happy. So why don't we name the emotions? I can see that you're looking very unhappy. You're looking very frustrated. Do you want to tell me about it? Instead of taking it personally that they have a frown on their face, it's their face. You can choose, if you have a frown in your face, well, that's how you're feeling. Like we said last time, I'm not feeling your feeling. You're the one that is feeling it. Our job is to now help them to manage the feelings. The teenager has an outburst. I refuse to be drawn into it. If you have a volatile teenager, of course, there are things that have happened that have built up to that stage. But if at that stage you have a volatile teenager, you're not having a shouting match. I'm walking away. As in, it's not defeat. It's not weakness that I'm walking away. I'd say to that child, I refuse to continue talking to you if you're going to be so disrespectful. There's no teenager that you walk away from. Well, maybe there are a few that will continue. It's going to kind of stop them in their tracks, because what you're doing when you have a shouting match is you're fueling their adrenaline, you're giving them. But when you refuse to be drawn into it and you say, you know what, you can't disrespect me, and you retain your authority, you're teaching them how to manage their emotions. You're teaching them that I don't have to shout at you to get you to behave. There's a way, there's a better way. And that's dialogue. That's sitting down and talking things through. We're modeling it. Okay. So in this group, of course, you know that teenagers are my all children. I love children. Okay. So they they are now managing their emotions through the way we model it to them. They're experiencing adult feelings. They don't have the experience to manage them. We should be there to help them manage their emotions. Of course, you'll agree with me. 13 to 18, the hormones are raging. The girls are looking very fine. The boys are looking very attractive. It is our duty. I was talking to a parent last weekend. It's our duty to teach them, to guide them. Don't let the sex education in school be their teacher. You be the teacher, you be their first point of call when it comes to managing all the emotions and all the things that are happening in them, so that we can set, we can be there to support them. So age 5 to 12, we're teaching them to control their tantrums and frustration without adult comfort, because younger children, they will have a tantrum and they will want you to, be there to comfort them. But older than that, unless there's an underlying issue, they're beginning to self-regulate. And if we are not self-regulating, let's not expect it of the children. That's just my own, small way of saying it. We self-regulate and we show them how to self-regulate. People annoy us. How do we handle it? They're watching. We're talking to someone in our business or on, anything. Let them see us model the patience, so that, the children, they do what they see you do, not what you tell them to do. I mean, that's about as much as I can say about self-control. I mean, I could go on and on, but yeah, emotional control, self-control, it covers everything. Are we controlling ourselves around the things that we like? If we are being excessive, they will pick it up, and they might not be excessive in the things we are excessive with. I mean, I was reading an article recently, and it was talking about grandparents being glued to their phones more and more. And for me, it was an eye opener, because I remember, us having a conversation. My mom was saying, your dad needs to spend. Your dad's always pressing that phone. That's what came to my head straight away. And I read the article, and they did have a lot of evidence, because grandparents are now, they're at that stage where they're not working, that they're home, they're retired. And if peradventure they discover all the social media, because there's lots of older people on social media now, and they are now, getting into that space of spending a lot of time on the screen. So imagine that. So we just need to be aware that, we are under scrutiny. Our children are watching, and they're absorbing the things that we model in self-control, in what we eat. Sometimes it's that chocolate that you like. Your children observe you eating it, excessively. For them, when they're going to translate that, they're probably going to translate it into something that they like, because they've seen you model that, okay, if you like something, you can go overboard. So modeling moderation in all ways helps. So, Stephen, where are you?
So, can you not hear me?
Uh-huh. I can see you now. I couldn't see you. I was just seeing myself.
Oh, okay. I'm definitely there. Don't worry. I won't leave you on your own.
Yeah.
So,
So is
there's
that our
quite a,
last?
yeah, there's quite a lot that can be said, but I'm working with you to get to the end of the slide.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Oh, is that the last one?
this is slide 21.
Okay.
After 21, we only have only one left, and that's flexibility.
Okay. Let me go through this one. This is
Okay.
quite similar to emotional and self-control, self-monitoring,
Mm,
self-awareness.
mm,
Okay, self-awareness. If you're not aware of where you are, then you can't make a move to improve what you're doing. So for some people, you know, sometimes my husband and I have this conversation, and he'll say, "Oh, but how can they?" And I said, "Some people are just satisfied with where they are. They're not they're not like, thinking about, oh, how did that person do that? That's interesting. Being aware enough to know that, that's really good. I wonder how they did it, and looking at their own. It's not it's being self-evaluative. It's been realistic about where you are and monitoring yourself enough to be able to improve yourself. So for those who are older, like, oh, you check your work for self-evaluation. We do evaluations at work. At the end of the year, we fill up to our performance management, reflection,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Monitoring and evaluating your own behavior in comparison to others. If everybody's sitting quietly, why am I making noise? Some people haven't got that self-awareness. They just continue. Sometimes you walk into an office and you can hear some people loud in a quiet environment. You should be
Mm.
aware that everything else around here is quiet. It's my voice that is loud. Now, that's a good skill to have. If adults model it, a lot of children will pick it up. So monitoring, checking your own work for mistakes. Some people are not even aware. It's good to be confident, but it's good to be realistic about where we are
Mm-hmm.
so that we can improve. If you cannot evaluate, then you can't improve. You can't. So monitoring their work for mistakes. We do a lot of reflective work in school, talking about, they talk to their friends about what they've done and why.
Mm-hmm.
Now, us as ethnic minorities, us as adults, ethnic minorities, struggle with that because it's not a skill that a lot of us had been taught growing up. How can I do this better? But I know that as we work in this environment, we're getting better at it. Okay, so monitoring their performance, adjusting to improve, and that means you are calling the child, calling their attention to, oh, they've washed the dishes.
Mm.
Well done, you've done the dishes. And then reminding them that when we finish doing the dishes, we wipe down the sink, and then we rinse
The
the
cloth
washcloth and lay
to
spread
dry.
it out to dry so it
Wow.
doesn't smell. So it's modeling. We do it, but if you don't explain it to the child so that they can understand and they can now self-evaluate, then they won't understand why they're doing it. And it's a skill you carry across. You carry it across. So we 13 to 18, they require our feedback. They require our reminder to say, look, if you've done the tidying up, you've done the hoovering, you haven't done the dusting. Because when you hoover, the dust rises, and then you now need to do the dusting afterwards. And then they will be able to apply these skills as we teach them. Monitor their own behavior using tools. So we're talking about things like some of them would need like monitoring their emotions. How are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10? Things like that, so that they are aware in themselves. Some people are not even aware enough to know when they're upset or angry because their emotions have been buried down. So we need to make sure, help our children to be able to express how they're feeling and then monitoring their own behavior. Like, it should be able to evaluate that. Is this acceptable? Is this unacceptable? By the time they're 13 to 18, okay, I say to my children, I see teenagers in a big group and they're loud. I mean, it's the age to be loud, but then there's room for decorum.
Hmm.
There's still room for decorum. We should still carry ourselves in such a way that people are not glancing at us and thinking. I mean, when at that age they'll say, "Oh, mommy, you're being stereotypical," and I say, "Hey, I still say my own. You are if you you behave or you dress the way you want to be addressed.
That's
If
right.
if you're rowdy, people will address you
In the same
as a
manner.
ruffian. Yeah, they will address you like an irresponsible person. It's natural. That's the way human beings behave. When you present yourself a certain way, that's the way you'll be addressed.
Mm.
Plain, simple, and that message we need to continue to emphasize it. So one thing that's really good for self reflection is journaling. It's just at the end of the day, writing down your thoughts, reflecting how the day has gone. What have I done? What worked well? What didn't work well? How can I improve? Sometimes with the younger children, it's just talking through it. What was the best part of today for you, and why? What how did you, were you how were you a blessing to someone today? Did you help someone today? How did that make you feel? That's self-monitoring, self-reflection, talking about their feelings, connecting it to their behavior, and reminding them, especially the younger ones, that the fact that you're angry does not mean you should throw your cup.
Mm.
We don't throw things here. When we are angry, we can
We
sit down quiet.
express.
Yeah, because somebody can get hurt when you throw a cup, and I
Of
don't want
course.
my cups being broken because you're angry. Would you like me to break the TV because I'm angry? And they'll go, oh, yeah,
Mhm.
same thing, same thing. So it's helping them realize that their behavior, their actions, their choices impacts on others, because that's what the toddlers, the younger ones, do not recognize. It's all about me at those ages, but we train them, we teach them, we model. If we don't throw things when we are angry, when they throw, we can correct them. But if we throw things, how do we balance that? Auntie JJ said, "Not in my house. They want to watch Disney films together." You're right. Yeah, they mirror us. They absolutely mirror us. Yeah. So
Mm.
let's do the last slide. I mean, we'll
Okay.
still do questions.
Yes, there's a lot to talk about.
Okay.
Flexibility.
Is that the last one?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Flexibility. Now, flexibility, when we're talking about actually all of these skills, we're talking about those who are developing at the usual rate, who are achieving their developmental milestones. Now, flexibility for children who are on the autistic spectrum is a hard thing. They're quite rigid in their ways. So we're
Mm.
talking about children who have no diagnosis here. Okay, being able to modify being able to modify your schedule if things have changed, not having a meltdown. Now, we always joke in special needs circles that everybody is on the spectrum. We all
Mm.
have a bit of rigidity
To a
in
certain
us
extent,
to a
yeah.
certain extent. So it's being able to manage, going back to your emotions now, being able to manage your emotions when disappointments come in, enough to be flexible to accept what's coming in, what's on ground. So modifying your schedule. Okay, I mean, this has happened. I can't do what I need to do now. What's the first thing? What's the next one thing I can do? And they need to see us model this 19 plus. Of course, nobody wants things to be unpredictable, but it happens. My daughter is always laughing at me when we go to a shop. I'll be like, why did they change? This
The
is this is
location
where
of
you
the
should.
aisles. Yes.
And she will say, Mom, just as I said, I walked into this shop. I just want to go to that aisle, pick what I want,
And go.
and go. Now they've moved it. So you can see that it comes out in little ways like that. So unpredictability, these things haven't worked out the way we expect them to work out. How are we modeling it as adults?
Mm.
Then we will see it in the 19 plus. Then it will filter down to the younger ones. Handling change easily. somebody disappoints us. How do we handle it? So managing unpredictable changes in schedule and routines, some children, you can't change the routine, of course, because they have other needs. Some children don't have other needs, but they have been so, what's the word I'm looking for? They have been so closeted. I don't want to use the word spoiled. They are so used to their own way that they can't manage change. Now, that one we shouldn't fall prey to. Some children will not eat unless they have a certain plate and they haven't got any developmental issues. Some children, it's not criticism. If you can manage it, fine. I've seen homes where this child will have,
One
it's
food.
dinner time. This child will have noodles. The other one will have bread. The other one will have, and I'm just like, eh, eh, I can't. Do they have an allergy? No, it's just a preference. We will manage it. That's me. We will manage it, because if we bend over backwards
Backwards. Yeah.
for them, no one's going to do that for them out in the world.
They will get
No, no
accustomed to it.
employer, no employer, no teacher. That's why some children will not hand in their homework, and they will expect teacher to give them more time. Oh, that teacher is always picking on me. He can't even give me time to, like, what? There's a deadline. Okay, so we need to help them to have strategies to manage. We all go through disappointments. Life does not promise us like it's going to be predictable. It's what you do with what's happening that's important. Okay, things haven't worked out well. What's the next thing? What can I do? We need to teach them to be able to say, look, I have a problem. What can I do? Help me with this. I don't know what to do next. Even when they failed, like they haven't handed in the assignment, or they haven't passed the exam. Next step. What's the lessons from this? Can we move on? What can we do? So they will need our support to identify strategies to use. I am disappointed. Like one of my coaches will say, you have 24 hours max to do doom and gloom. Then pick yourself up and move. Failure is not final. And in this life, we will fail many, many times.
Many times, exactly.
We will start and stop many, many times. So all this perfectionism of I must. Once we've given it our best go, it works out fine. It doesn't work out, let's learn the lessons and move on. So the younger children, it starts from not being able to win a game. I was terrible. When I was young. I wanted to win. I was so competitive.
Oh,
I
welcome
wanted to
to.
win. I wanted to win a game, and because I was the oldest, if my siblings should win, I don't want to tell you what I used to do.
You have a friend in my house.
I was such a sore loser, but you learn.
Yes.
You learn.
Wow.
They need to learn that you don't win all the time. We want you to win, but life doesn't hand it to you like that. Okay, being able to shift, being able to transition. Some children, I think we've talked about it. It's time to tidy up. It's time to stop. They will just have a right party. They will just have a total meltdown. We need to manage it from that age. Otherwise, they're going to grow up to being inflexible. It's me, it's what I want, my agenda, me. That's an inward that we need to work with that child. So understand that when it's time to stop, it's time to stop.
Stop.
And like my mom used to say that no child can use crying to harass her. You
That's me.
can't harass me by crying. If you
No
didn't
way.
cry, you wouldn't have left the labor ward.
Exactly.
Ah, well, that generation. Yeah, so flexibility, we need it.
Yeah, we even offer you a bucket.
Ah, stop again.
I will offer you a bucket. I say, if you can feel it, go ahead and fill it up because it's not going to change the situation.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Amazing. Right.
You know, uh, um, some things I think the last one is obviously just Q&A, I think, because
Mm,
the way you've displayed it, I think is Q&A.
mm.
There
Yeah, it's questions. Yeah.
is questions, okay, and then obviously you thank everybody for listening, but
Yeah.
it's basically Q&A. So um, we've um, we've gone over the hour a little bit. Obviously we started late,
Yeah.
but at this junction, um, there is so much that you've covered. To be honest with you, I'm looking forward to a time when we can just converse
Okay.
about some of these things that you have
Yeah.
brought out to us. Obviously, for time, because honestly, looking at each slide, I think you can just do
One
um
session of each slide.
yeah, one session on one slide, to be honest with you. So here you see my grandma said crocodile tears, exactly. Me too. ah in fact, sometimes me too, when they start, what's happened to my, oh, just hold on please. uh can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes when they start to cry, me too, I will help them to cry, so we can all cry
It's
together.
interesting that
I'll,
if you model what they're doing, they will stop and watch you like, eh?
ah
What are you doing? I
honestly.
say, but that's what you were doing now.
Exactly. So you know how to scream. Me too. I know how to scream. So you scream. Let's see who can scream the loudest. And your lungs, are they as big as mine? Okay. So let's have a go. Um, I just think some of it is tough love sometimes. Um, I don't know whether we've covered it or is a different aspect entirely, because I know you work with both parents and teenagers. But I'm kind of wondering whether there's an area where adult themselves um, haven't actually matured.
I said that.
Uh-huh.
When it comes to the emotional control, when it
Yeah.
comes to emotional control, if we lose it and shout, or and unfortunately the children accuse us of that. They not accuse us, if it's actually the truth. That's, as they call it, African parents, our first reaction is to shout.
Shout.
I've learned to switch that,
Mm.
and I will speak quietly. And my children will say, am I in trouble? Because
You're speaking quiet.
when I speak quietly,
Mm.
they'll be like, Mommy, am I in trouble? I say, what? Do you think you're in trouble?
Honestly, because the reason I say that is, yes, I agree with the ability to be able to control oneself, that if we have a mature, but I'm kind of thinking about all round maturity, to be honest, as even matured enough to be a parent in the first place.
Well, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Wow.
The, the sad thing is that a lot of us adults, we kind of had stunted emotional growth.
Mm,
And to be honest, there are two things that can, bring out everything that is inside us: marriage and children.
mm,
Your children will trigger you
mm-hmm,
like nobody else on earth.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's why people say, oh, that child is pushing my button. The child is just being a child. What they are doing to you is they are digging up things that you have
not mastered or dealt with, or
that you haven't dealt with, or that you
yeah,
have internalized, and
buried.
you are buried away.
And they're bringing it up.
Yeah. If you can't bear your child crying, you probably weren't allowed to cry.
Probably. And I think, like you said, marriage as well, if you're in a frustrated marriage, if you're in an abusive marriage, if you are in a marriage where you yourself don't have a voice, or you can't lash back out at the person that is hurting you, you take out your anger, your frustration, your annoyance on somebody else. Yeah, so for me, I just see it as an element of bully, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Somebody is bullying you, so you're bullying somebody
Really
else,
other people.
you know.
And sometimes it's not even that extreme. It's the fact that you haven't learned how to relate.
Okay.
You haven't developed the skills for. You find that in a lot of the trouble in marriage is it's poor communication. Somebody making assumptions, somebody not being flexible enough, somebody not listening to the other people. Is that not parenting?
mm, mm,
Everything is interwoven.
mm, mm. So, like I said, I think every one of these slide is a topic on its own, and like I said, maybe as the months goes on, it's something we can actually. We've kind of looked at the theory, if I can say that. We've seen
Mm,
what we should be doing, but this is the practicality of it. This is what I'm going through. This is what is actually, because again, remember our conversation we were talking about earlier, where somebody is still using notes from 1945 to teach in 2021, you know? um, you know, adaptation, moving with the flow, moving with time,
mm,
being relevant in your current relationship or
yes.
situation or climate or
Mm,
social change or
true.
whatever it
True.
is.
Yeah, I was reading somewhere recently. Someone was saying that we kind of assume that we know how to parent,
No,
but
no.
we attend marriage seminars, we attend seminars for other things, but we just never
Don't
think
do
that
parenting.
parenting is a
Yeah.
thing that we need help with.
Mm.
We do need help,
We do.
and things like Auntie JJ has written, some adults wear their hearts on their sleeves. They have no control over their emotions. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they would scream at a 5-year old. They would scream with their that. People tell me they are fighters. How can you be fighting with a teenager, like a 19-year-old?
Mm.
They are strong. What do you think you're doing? Authority is
You've
not
lost control.
physical strength.
Mm. You've lost
If
control.
even if you're the head of the child is reaching the roof,
Mm.
there's a way
Definite.
to handle things. So yeah, well, God will grant us wisdom.
I think that that parenting um knowledge, skills, is definitely an aspect. Again, I tend to say this a lot when there is something that I feel the church should also be helping us out with. Again, is down to the openness of the leaders of the church, and I
Mm,
have to be honest with you, Sister Folakemi, this is one of the reasons I like some of the orthodox churches, or because they will actually look around them and say, okay, this is what's happening in the environment. How can we incorporate this in
yeah,
our service? How can we help to eradicate this or eliminate this problem, that kind of thing. But we just seems to focus so much on, fast and pray, read your
spiritual.
Bible, the,
Yeah.
the, the
Mm,
deliverance, and
mm,
all those
yeah.
kind of thing. Whereas, actually standing on the pulpit and telling people, one of the things that wow me, and I started telling people this when I heard Michelle Obama say it. She's in an interview. She said to people, she said, "Do you know Do you know that Barack and I, we went for marriage counseling, and this is why she was in the White House."
Mm.
She said we went for marriage counseling.
True.
You see, and people always think that, especially if you're holding such positions or office
You're
or something,
perfect.
yeah,
No,
that
you
because
don't
you're holding
help.
that position, you seems to all rounder and you have the skills and everything, and no, that it doesn't work that
There's no
way
shame in needing help.
at all.
There's no shame in, being there's the positions where we find ourselves, which that we mustn't suffer in silence. And I think the church is becoming more aware. I mean, I
You do?
remember when some of us were advocating, talking about, doing women's conferences. I've never been following the norm, and we were talking about mental health. I'm talking 7 years or so ago. Some people thought, where you can pray. What's I say?
You see?
Me, I know how to pray, but the Bible says walk and pray.
Mm,
So we would learn these things because this is the reality on ground. This is the reality on ground. So many women depressed.
exactly. I was still telling my daughter that I remember a sister telling me a couple of years ago, I think that's about 5 years ago, she was doing a course in South London, and she said to me, she said, "Sis, if I tell you how many young women or ladies are in this place, and most of it stemmed from bad relationship
Yeah,
that they
yeah,
just couldn't handle." She said,
mm,
"I'll be horrified
yeah,
at the amount of young ethnic
yeah.
um that
Minorities.
is
Yeah.
ethnicity, that is, so I don't even know whether I can say we're deluded or we're deluding ourselves or something like that. I don't know what
Mm,
language to use, but it
yeah.
would be nice that, and when I mentioned the Obama one, I was basically saying, look, there's nothing wrong from our pulpit if we're being encouraged to go for parenting classes. There's nothing
Mm,
wrong in saying mental health is a real issue and you can
mm.
actually reach out for help.
Oh yes.
That's why I feel like in a position of authority, when the people we look up to so much are actually saying, do you know it's absolutely fine to go for parenting classes, to say that, oh, so and I went for parenting classes, or we enrolled in this course to learn more about being
Mm,
better parents and all those kind of things. I think we owe it to our children, to be honest with you. That's my
mm.
that's my view.
We do.
Like
We
you
do.
said, we will better ourselves in our profession. We do all sort of courses, short courses, long courses, one with certificate, none without
Without.
certificate.
Mm,
Do you get what I'm saying? We will, obviously, because we'll probably put more money in our bank account, or will move me up the ladder or something like that. But the Yoruba people say the lifespan of a job is always longer than that of the worker. no matter the
exactly.
no matter the
Exactly.
degree or the
Yeah.
qualification and how high you move up to,
Mm.
one day if you make a mistake, the business will go on and you're flushed out. That's
Oh
it.
yes.
Your
Yeah.
children will never have another set of parents. They will never
Won't.
have
It won't.
the formative years that you went there. You didn't, I hope you get what I'm saying, that
Yes.
people will just take it on board and just please, 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 we can have better homes, better relationships, better parents, better children, better atmosphere for our children to grow up
Mm. Mm.
healthily, and all those kind of things, have healthy thoughts, healthy minds,
Yeah.
healthy, and that's just what
We
I'm
have access. We have access to so much information. I mean,
mm,
so much.
mm,
So much. The pandemic for me, as far as I'm concerned, has opened up avenues like for so many things. I attend trainings with people in Australia.
okay,
Of course,
thank you.
you'll be
Yeah,
ridiculous o'clock.
yes,
America, the
yes,
world now is now a
yes,
small
I did.
village.
Yeah, I did some in Canada. In fact, I did some. I even missed the lecture, I think, almost by maybe the whole duration. I only managed to take because their time in Canada changed, and I didn't realize the time has changed. And I'm thinking they're about to start when they're about to finish the class. But thank God, you get the materials and things like that. So always advocating for people to learn. I think people need to have the willingness to learn and to know that they haven't obtained it. No matter how well it seems that the home or the family or the children are behaving,
you never finish learning. You never stop learning. I buy books every day. I subscribe to all sorts of,
thank God there are many of us like that.
I don't even have space for books anymore.
You are not the only one. So I'm trusting God for room and expansion, to be honest with you.
I told my children, I need a study now. We're place where
you're not the only one.
My stuff just in my office.
Honestly.
But we can never finish. Even if I think my children are grown up, I still have children around me.
Of course.
I still have younger ones who have children.
You still have nieces, you have nephews.
I still have nieces and nephews. I still have
and
all
your grandchildren, if the Lord permits, are on
all
the way.
These siblings that God has given me extra. It's our job to look after them, and from the mistakes I've made, I don't want anybody else to make those mistakes.
Exactly. Sister Folakemi, as always, I'm grateful. So I'm not seeing you next month, as I'm not seeing anybody next month, to be honest.
So your break.
I am definitely looking forward to it. This week I'm just holding on by the skin of my teeth. So but come September, by God's grace, maybe we can develop more, or you choose. I mean, it's up to you, to be honest with you, but definitely whatever we can do to help mom and dad to be better. But I still think, Sister Folakemi, to be honest with you, the willingness of the heart, the willingness to want to learn, the willingness to want to improve, accepting that we're not perfect and there's always room for improvement. And like I said, whatever we do with our children, especially as we that have a mandate to train up children in the ways of the Lord, is for eternity.
It is.
Because this is the baton that they will also hand on to the next generation.
Exactly.
Yes. Exactly. So, that's why, I like what you say. It's never too late. Even where we've made mistakes, we can still correct those mistakes and still hand on those corrections to the next generation. Like you said, don't fall where I fell so that you wouldn't have to come and fall there. It wouldn't make sense for 2, 3, 4 generations to fall in the same place. I'm not talking about generational curses now, so please don't become spiritual with me. But I'm just saying there are things, and I've seen it, honestly, Sister Folakemi, in this journey. I have seen it where the grandmother fell, the mother fell, the daughter fell
all the time.
And
they have tried their utmost best.
Honestly, even though they knew my grandma fell here, my mom fell here, somehow that girl ended up falling in the same place. And that's one of the things I've always said to people. I say, please, be vigilant, be intentional. This, like you said, is not all about fasting and prayer. It's not about spiritual and all those kind of things. There's some things that are practical. Why did my grandma fail there? Why did my mom fall in the same place? What did they do? Almost like a case study, to be honest with you. It's a family case study.
It's digging deep into
why
what's going on.
And and when you said, even it happened to my cousins, or the cousins, or my female cousins, it happened to, I'm not saying it can't be a generational curse, but sometimes it's because you are all making the same mistake, a lesson that was never learned, and the correction was never passed on. Like, for instance, I practically tell my children today the mistakes I've made, the mistakes I know that their dad made. and the mistakes I've seen in my family or I've seen in his family, and I called their attention to it. I said, this is a mistake. This is something that's gone wrong. You must be conscious about this. So it looks like you're frozen. I don't know whether your internet is playing up. Yeah. Let me show you. You're
okay,
back.
yeah.
Okay. So everybody is saying thank you to you.
You're welcome. You're
So
welcome,
we are
family.
grateful.
Thank you,
Thank you
Stafumi. Thank
so
you,
much.
Georgia Derby. Thank you. I've really,
So
really enjoyed.
yeah,
I've enjoyed every bit of it.
thank you
Yeah,
very
thank you,
much.
Ma.
Thank
DJ
you.
Profits. Thank you.
Yes, so
Mm.
that's my aunt.
Yes, ma.
So uh some of the parent needs are guidance, yeah, and
Different
different
strategies.
strategies, yes.
Yes.
I mean, she's speaking from professional and
Mm.
expert point of view, which is
Then,
true,
true.
so and that's why I keep saying that this kind of things, people don't flock to it, but it
Mm.
will be beneficial,
Mm.
it will be
True.
beneficial, like I said, those kind of tools that you post. I wonder how many people, I see some people comment on it, but are they utilizing it, are they implementing it?
Well.
Yeah, it's a big well. Conga. Sister Folakemi, on
Mm.
behalf of everybody, we want to say thank you.
You're
We appreciate
welcome.
you so much.
We give God
And my
praise.
family and I, when I say my family, I mean the PCC family, will see how we can reach out to you, because I know this is what you do professionally. And we truly appreciate the wealth of resource and knowledge that
God.
you have brought to the
Thank
table
God.
for us. Thank you.
It's been a
God
pleasure.
bless you
God bless
mightily.
you.
So I'm going to let you go, and God willing, you and I will catch up
Yes. Yeah.
backstage.
Backstage. Bye, PCC family.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful summer.
Yes, so wonderful summer.
Everybody.
Yes, yes. And your children are allowed to raid your fridge.
Ah, what can we do?
It's a pleasure. You should be
Yes.
glad. Some people want people to raid their fridge. That's
Oh,
what my husband keeps saying. You
yeah.
find somebody to eat and you're complaining.
Mm.
The day you put food and nobody is eating it.
Come and ask me. We'll be cooking your food in a small pot.
Okay. So, well, enjoy the
Bye.
rest of your night, sis.
You
God
too.
bless you. Thank
Bye.
you, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, that is Sister Folakemi Adedeji Ikuyinminu. So, like I always say, you can find her on Facebook. You can find her. In fact, we tried to stream it on her page today, but we didn't manage. So by God's grace, we'll work on all that maybe before September, by the grace of God. So everybody, Archbishop, you're welcome. God bless you, ma. Everybody, please, all I'm going to say in closing: utilize all those information. I don't know. I can speak to Sister Folakemi about it. I didn't think about it before. I've only just thought about it now. Maybe we can pass these resources to other people. I don't know, but I'll discuss it with her, because I don't want to take advantage. Like I said, it's something she does professionally. So you just don't take somebody's material and just give it out anyhow. But obviously it's in the public domain already, as it's in the live stream. So yeah, everybody, I'm grateful. By God's grace, I'm hoping to see you tomorrow. And then we've got Pastor Lide on Wednesday. He'll be the last pastor we'll be seeing till September. And then obviously we've got my boss with Redeeming the Time again. 1,000 apologies. For Sunday, we couldn't, my boss was too strong to be able to do Sunday. So if you were waiting to see the digital Sunday fellowship, sorry, my boss was not able to do that yesterday. So it's a well-needed rest for everybody. So again, I want to say thank you. And as always, I'm leaving you in the most capable hands of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Have a wonderful day, morning, or night, wherever you are. Take care. God bless you all.